And now, NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello and thanks for joining us for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Susie Ross. This week we're taking a look at some of the Cattle Learning Center's best stories brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health. Let's take a look. Welcome back to Cattleman to Cattleman. For cow-calf producers, reproductive efficiency is a critical factor affecting an operation's bottom line. With breeding season right around the corner, bull health and soundness is an important topic. We have more from the Cattle Learning Center.
We've worked with our veterinarian for now about 25 years that he's been here. He works on a lot of big ranches. He sees what's happening. And so we sit down every year and go over our vaccination program. He tests our bulls for fertility and breeding soundness and all. So he can advise us right quick any changes that we need to make, because a live calf on the ground is the most important thing in a ranch operation.
Breeding soundness exams should be performed 45 to 60 days prior to the breeding season for the annual breeding soundness evaluation. This allows producers time to find other bulls to go in for that breeding season. It's a real problem if you do breeding soundness exams just a few days prior to the breeding season and then have trouble finding bulls to replace those bulls that failed to pass a breeding soundness exam. For bulls that are being prepared for a sale, it's actually better to try to test these bulls as close to sale time as possible. This way we're sure that nothing has happened to those bulls from the time they were tested right up until the sale date. There are 4 key components of a breeding soundness examination of a bull: the physical exam, evaluation of scrotal circumference, the evaluation of sperm morphology, and the evaluation of sperm motility. The bulls must have sound feet and legs and have sound ocular ability to be able to mount and effectively breed a female. Part of the physical exam includes palpating the external reproductive structures, which includes the prepuce, palpating the testicles. We're mainly looking for defects such as adhesions, abscesses. The next part of the physical examination is a rectal exam, which involves evaluation of the accessory sex glands, including the seminal vesicles and other accessory sex glands.
In essence, scrotal circumference, its real estimate or its power relative to fertility is in its relationship to semen volume, and certainly as we put more sperm cells into the tract during breeding, we have a better chance of getting a successful pregnancy. And then secondly, the relationship of scrotal circumference to age at puberty in daughters. Morphology is essentially an evaluation of the cells in a semen sample relative to their structural correctness. There are 3 basic pieces of a sperm cell that are evaluated: the head, the midpiece, and the tail. When we discuss semen motility or sperm cell motility, we're really looking for cells that swim progressively forward. They literally spin through time, and we want to see those cells moving in a progressively motile manner, which lets us know that those cells have a chance then, when they get into the reproductive tract, to generate a functional pregnancy.
There are several advantages to performing breeding soundness examinations in bulls. Research has shown that performing breeding soundness evaluations results in 6% higher fertility than in herds that do not perform breeding soundness examinations. Another report showed that performance of a breeding soundness exam was a 17-to-1 return on that investment dollar. So for every dollar spent on breeding soundness exams, you can expect a return of $17 on your investment. Breeding soundness exams also can allow us to possibly use fewer bulls.
Since reproductive efficiency and performance in a cow-calf operation is the most important thing in terms of the economics of that operation, I think it's critical that you have a veterinarian work with you in the process of bull evaluation. So I think they can make some very significant impact on reproductive efficiency in your cow herd.
Thanks to Dr. Glenn Rogers, Technical Services Veterinarian with Pfizer Animal Health, and our other experts for providing these timely and important tips. For more information on breeding soundness exams, contact your veterinarian or go to cattlemantocattleman.org. We'll be right back.
I was just about to land on a fresh final manure when I was strangely attracted to this stuff on the wall. Quick Bait Spot Spray. That's good eating. Ooh, Quick Bait Fly Bait. I know it's gonna kill me, but I still love it.
Quick Bait Fly Bait and Spot Spray make a lethal combination to lure flies into certain death.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain mineral special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open-range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today, there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
And now, this week's Management Minute.
Move to how you clean these things up. When they come back, they need to be cleaned thoroughly, outside and inside. Put those in water and completely fill the syringe. And once I've got that syringe completely filled, if I wrap that in wet paper towels, completely cover it in wet paper towels, and drop it in a plastic bag. Make sure my paper towels are around any of the metal parts.
I thought we weren't supposed to put metal in microwaves.
If you've gotten ample water around this, the metal parts in something like this won't cause any sparking problem at all. Then we use the microwave oven. Literally, microwaves don't, nothing special. They're going to heat water, and we're going to sterilize this by boiling. When I come back out of this microwave, usually set it for 5 minutes, all the water inside has been completely, it'll be gone. At this point in time, we're going to store this. I store them in a freezer because bacteria don't grow in a freezer. But as long as you keep them in a nice clean place and leave them in a bag so dust and so forth, they're ready to go.
Welcome back to Cattleman. On a recent trip to the Meat Animal Research Center in Nebraska, we caught up with 2 veterinarians who show us how to properly handle and administer vaccines in order to help prevent diseases.
Dee, I vaccinated, but my calves still got sick. Why?
You too. I hear that in 30 years it seems to be a common complaint. And producers somehow frequently think vaccines are the answer to animal health, and it's just part of the picture. True, you have to have a high quality vaccine. In fact, a really smart guy said cattlemen are going broke stepping over dollar bills trying to pick up nickels. And that's probably no place any truer than selection of vaccines. High quality vaccines for the right kind of problem. I think calf scours is a really good example. You can go broke spending money for calf scours, but until you deal with the calf and the environment and the bugs that are in his environment, you're never getting any place. High quality vaccines, properly selected.
But we've got to know how to handle them and how to give them, don't we?
Good point. Let's go take a look at that.
Okay, Dee, how about some tips on how we can clean up?
Sure. I've got kinds of equipment that we use regularly. This is the most common syringe that we use and many others. It's a pistol grip syringe We take these completely apart and boil them. The joints, the rubber joints, we lubricate with a little bit of cooking oil. A spray oil is probably my favorite. And put those back together and store them in a dry, clean place. On the automatics, if we suck a number of loads of hot boiling water until we've gotten all the insides completely clean, never ever use any soap. Leave them full of water, and I have in the microwave one that I've already done. Wrap them in paper towels, wet paper towels, inside a Ziploc bag, and microwave them on high for about 5 minutes. All the water inside will evaporate or boil and boil out. There'll be just a few residual drops. Leave them wrapped up. Store these in a freezer. Freezer won't be any mold growth from any residual moisture, and it's always a nice, dry, clean place. Before we get ready to use them, they're going to come out cold. We need to make sure that our sterilization is one more time. We'll boil a little water in a microwave oven and rinse our syringes about 3 times to make sure that we've got all that blown off, and double check to make sure that our transfer needles, in fact, we wind up with nice sterile syringes and then screw up a lot of vaccines with dirty transfer needles. And I use the same process. I'll wrap the transfer needle in some wet paper towel, put them in a container, and run a microwave in no more than 30 seconds or so, just enough to boil the water around that needle, renders it sterile, and then store it in a nice, clean, dry place.
We're headed chute side with Doctors Griffin and Grote-Lushen. We'll head back out to the research center to learn how to handle vaccines correctly. We'll be right back.
To some, it's just a pasture, but to you, it's part of a livelihood to be passed along. That's why Fort Dodge Animal Health developed Cydectin with pasture health in mind. Cydectin protects against performance-robbing internal and external parasites, and it's the only insecticide proven to have no adverse effects on beneficial dung beetle populations. Cydectin from Fort Dodge Animal Health, protecting your herd and your pasture, so they can both be passed along.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Let's head back to Clay Center, Nebraska for the second part of this week's Cattle Learning Center.
Okay, Dee, we're ready to head out to the chute. How do we pack up?
Well, you got the first big important part. There's a nice styrofoam cooler and a frozen ice pack. We've selected carefully vaccines appropriate for our use. Here's a modified live IVR. Here's our 7-way. And in this case, we also have a Pasteurella vaccine. I have a sterile transfer needle for moving those around the bottle, and I've got an appropriate selection of needles.
How do we know how many needles to take?
That's a good question. We need to calculate 1 needle for every 10 to 15 animals. Okay. And extra animals, because if we contaminate that needle in between the very first animal, we need a new one. Contaminated and damaged needles just need to be replaced before they're used. We need to use a new needle on every bottle if we happen to re-enter. And we need to have the size appropriate for the animal that we're working with. 1 and 1.5 inch needles for our intramuscular injections. I use a 1 inch 18 gauge for our light calves and a 1.5 inch for our larger animals. For our sub-Q injections, I'm either going to use an 18 in our light calves and a 16 in our heavier calves, like over 500 pounds, 5/8 or 3/4 of an inch. I also have our syringes that we prepared earlier. We've got those in our unit. Make sure I review the label instructions, withdrawals, any precautions. All our vaccines have a 21 gauge day withdrawal unless they have oil adjuvant, and then they're 60.
But Dee, can't we just go ahead and mix our vaccine up right here?
No. Never mix up more than 1 bottle at a time. We're just not in that big a hurry. Quality, not quantity, is what our objectives.
Great. We're ready to head to the chute.
Let's go. Okay, so we're here. We've got the right vaccine. You've got a sterile transfer needle. We review the label to make sure that we've got the proper dose. We understand the withdrawal times and any other precautions. Now we're going to mix this first by inserting the needle in the diluent, sterile diluent, and then into the desiccated vaccine at the bottom, and let those two. Put the diluent over the top, and the vacuum will suck it down into the other bottle. Once those are mixed, and we mix these immediately prior to using the vaccines, we attach them to our vaccination syringe. We've attached the proper needle. I'm going to empty this and suck the vaccine down into the syringe. So I've properly loaded a 2 milliliter dose. This is a subcutaneous vaccine, so I slide with my 3/4 inch needle. I lift the skin. You can see the tinted technique. Inject the vaccine and withdraw. Well, we're ready for the next calf.
Dee, some other information that we need to record in addition to the dosage, the vaccine, and so forth is the expiration date, the serial number, and the lot number located on the box.
Good point. I'll record those for our BQA records and to have for the next owner of these cattle.
Given that the animal responds, you've injected this appropriately, this should be a successful vaccination.
We've covered all our bases. One last thing is remember that we reviewed the safety precautions. Safety is everything.
If you want to learn more about vaccination practices and procedures, go to cattleman-to-cattleman.org. We'll be right back. Want to learn more about the industry issues that matter most to you? Join National Cattlemen's Beef Association and receive the National Cattleman magazine and the Beef Business Bulletin. These members-only publications dig deeper into the stories that affect you and your operation's bottom line. Sign up today and receive a special gift. Call 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit beefusa.org. Welcome back to Cattleman to Cattleman. In this week's Cattle Learning Center segment, we're heading to Texas, where we had the chance to go on a ranch call with 2 veterinarians.
Okay, Arden, tell me a little about the operation that we're going to visit.
This is a large ranch in the northern part of our practice, and we've worked with them for a number of years. We developed their health plan about 9 years ago, and they've been pretty active and pretty compliant. What we're going to do today is pretty basic. We're just going out. They've sold some bulls private treaty, and we'll be doing some value-added diagnostic testing, BVD, PI, ear notches. We'll be testing for brucellosis and setting up to do a TB test on it. That's what the new buyers have requested, and it's part of their herd health plan.
Arden, this is a great facility. I've heard about this operation. It's one of the largest in the area and very well managed. How did you get your foot in the door?
Glenn, I think we got our foot in the door the way most veterinarians do. We were called out on an emergency. They were unable to reach their normal veterinarian, and we were called out to look at a sick cow. I think those traditional health services are important. They're paramount to providing health care to the ranch. And we come out to this ranch to pull calves and treat sick cattle and test bulls, and that relationship needs to stay going. It's how we maintain a client-patient relationship, and I think it's vital. What we want to do is move on and offer other services.
Well, Arden, I think it's common knowledge that we have a shortage of veterinarians in the United States.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's even more critical that we strive to have these relationships between producers and veterinarians that are effective for both parties.
But Glenn, we're going to start what we've already mentioned before, and that's establishing a relationship with your veterinarian. Meet him before you have a problem. This allows the veterinarian to understand your operation, understand your goals, understand your needs as a ranch, what you're trying to achieve, and this makes our service to you all that more efficient and all that more effective.
What are some specific recommendations that you would make to a producer in terms of when they need to call you?
What we like to do when we go out to a ranch is to literally establish a list of of benchmarks, a protocol, if you want to call it that, of when to call your veterinarian. And it may be something as simple as when the temperature crosses 103. If you have multiple systems involved and multiple clinical signs like a lameness or a respiratory problem combined, then it's time to call your veterinarian. And obviously, if you've had a sudden death incident or multiple deaths, it's a time to bring your veterinarian onto your ranch to try to determine what's going on. So yeah, those are some specific areas.
What about specific rules of engagement?
What we try to train our ranchers to do, or try to indicate that we would like done, is one, have the animal identified. That sounds silly, but often when you're dealing with large herds, this can become a problem. We want to know which animal we're supposed to treat. We like those animals to be caught up in a pen when we get there. When they see these green coveralls, they run for the back 40 every time. So it's important to have them caught, and then it's also important with sick animals or with any animal to treat them humanely. Let's not get them excited before we even get there. The less stress, the healthier the animal.
When we return, Doctors Anderson and Rogers head to the pasture to check on some cows getting ready to calve. And we'll talk more about the specifics of a herd health plan. We'll be right back.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Let's head back out to the pasture where we find Doctors Anderson and Rogers.
She looks like she's doing okay, Glenn. It's nice to see him out here calving on grass.
Yeah, it is. Maybe we can check her in a few minutes and she'll have already had it on her own.
I hope. Glenn, we need to talk a little bit about the importance of establishing a herd health calendar.
Well, the herd health calendar, of course, builds around the breeding and calving season. And many
just what we're seeing now.
Absolutely, and many times the calving season on an operation is etched in stone. Many times that's tradition, or it may have been carefully thought out, and that is the best time to calve. But I think at least that question needs to be broached before you go any further in developing a health program. Are we calving at the right time? Is the length of our calving season optimal for our management and forage resources that we have? When we have a controlled breeding season, we can place our animal health inputs into the time period where they'll basically accomplish the most for the dollar that's expended.
It seems like an overwhelming task.
Well, it's really very simple. First of all, we don't want the protocol or the calendar to be standardized. We want the questions that are asked to be standardized, so that we can create a unique health management program and protocol for a particular operation. Only you as a veterinarian in that particular area truly know what is important in that geographic area, and so it's important to sit down and wade through all the fluff and all the products that are out there and just hone in on what is most important for that operation.
Any other steps that we can begin to continue this herd health plan? We've established a calving time, a calving period. What's next?
One of the things that we can do with a herd health program is establish the total number of products needed for the year. In many cases, that may result in a cost savings for our clients.
They'll be more efficient.
They're more efficient in their purchases, and they have a tangible document that accentuates what you told them verbally. Many times we give advice as veterinarians on the fly. Maybe while you're preg testing cows, you give advice on animal health information, and it may or may not be remembered. If we want specific products given, it needs to be in a tangible document where they can follow that. Something you can hold in your hand and use that as your blueprint for your health program.
It gives us maybe not a detailed plan, but an outline to follow. Again, we go back to that protocol that we were talking about. What do? It still leaves the rancher lots of freedom and areas to move within, but gives us a framework on which to build.
Sure, and with individual clients, I'm sure you've heard many come in and say, what do I need to vaccinate for this year? And you scratch your head and try to remember what we did last year. And this gives you an opportunity to have these individual health plans for each individual client available, and you can readily recall what was given.
That makes really good common sense.
Thanks for watching this special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 right here on RFD TV.